Hello, and welcome to the first episode of this podcast series. I'm Andy Harvey, a sophomore at Mississippi State University, majoring in educational psychology. If you have looked at this episode title, then you would see that this episode is about Irlen Syndrome, a type of the visual perception disorder. It affects what some people might see, making reading and other visual activities more difficult. Overactivity and inability of effectively processing visual stimuli can cause a variety of symptoms for this disability, such as cognitive, emotional, neurological, and physical. Now that the introduction of me and the topic has been introduced, let's dive into the questions of this podcast. The first question: what is a mindset? There are two different types of mindset: a fixed mindset, meaning no growth, no improvement, and a growth mindset, meaning improvement and learning from past actions. I have a growth mindset, but for the longest time, I had a fixed one. This will become more apparent when I get to the story time of this podcast and for the rest of the questions. What does your study habits look like? I create a schedule of what needs to be done, i.e., homework and studying, or creating a schedule of like different events I need to go to. When it comes to studying, I study for exams and quizzes at least 3 days prior. And if I know that I will struggle on the exam, I would study a week in advance for it. How does your disability affect your self esteem and self insufficiency? My disability affects my self insufficiency by making it difficult to do or even complete certain tasks like reading an article or a book or anything that involves reading, really. My self esteem is not affected that bad as my self insufficiency due to support from my loved ones, such as my mom, my siblings, my dad, my cousins, who might. Um, what is one thing that you struggle with, or something that happened to you while you were in your career or school? For me, school. Reading papers, articles, and books, just as stated in the previous question. As stated, when I was answering the question over mindsets, I said that it would become more transparent when I get to the story time segment of this podcast. For the longest time, I had a fixed mindset. And it was mainly created due to a lot of roadblocks in my learning. At that time, I wasn't diagnosed for Irlen yet. So we didn't know what the heck was going on. I didn't want to learn at all. I didn't want to read. And funny enough, that actually caused my mom and the person who did my IEP at the time for my speech, therapy, went, okay, something's wrong. Something's not right here. And we discovered that based off of a pretty much a breakdown that I had in second grade in the school's library because I couldn't read the spine of the books. I couldn't. And the librarian told my mom told Miss Melissa, who's the person who did my IEP. And we went to my aunt because my cousins actually have the same disability as me. And they had little test samples of Irlen overlays. And they got me expired credit card, popped it on, and went through several colors and then hit blue. And I kept on reading. And that's when my aunt said she might have Irlen syndrome. You might want to get her tested. And whenever my mom showed my IEP person, Miss Melissa, mainly because since where I went to in Mary School and middle school was a very small town, we were in the same church. She Whenever I started reading a book that I never read, I just picked it out in the library. Her eyes went wild, like, oh my gosh. So later we went to the testing center for Erlen. I forgot where it is. And I got officially diagnosed with Erlen. And that actually helped fix my mind, start fixing my, started turning my fixed mindset into a growth. Now, that didn't mean that there was not more struggles. For example, in middle school, I got tested for other learning disabilities, and turns out I have tendencies of dyslexia, which I never got tested for due to the school system saying that I had perfect grades, you don't need it. But that didn't stop me. I later became determined to join Beta, which which is pretty much like student group organization that people who have like high grades and all that could join. My brother was there, and I can admit this, I was livid. I was livid at him getting all this, not even working hard for it, compared to me who was struggling in math, struggling in English, and I said my goal for the end to the end of my middle school year is to at least join Beta. That is my goal. And I kept true to that goal. I got into Beta my 8th grade year. Sadly, it was short lived because I joined near the end, and we were moving at the end of the summer to go to Reston, Louisiana, where I spent my high school years. And in high school, that's when I actually started developing and having a growth mindset due to the people around me, the support of the teachers, the support of the faculty, and a whole lot of stuff. There's actually one thing that I tell people. I told them in high school, I tell them even now, if there's sources that can help you, get take them. Like go to the writing center if you need help figuring out how to start a paper, need them to look over it. Go to them. The speaking center, had to go there this semester for one of my classes. Go there, they will help. I keep saying it to a lot of people. Email your professors if you have a question. Don't just be, oh, I don't know what this is. Email them. Email them through Canvas or Outlook, either one that they prefer. Email them, because if you don't, then you're not getting the correct information that you need and all that. And here's a little fun fact for you listeners. Even though I have a disability that affects reading and all that, my favorite pastime is actually reading books. My favorite genre is fantasy fiction, sci-fi. I also enjoy reading manga and comic books. Right now, I am collecting the physical versions of My Hero Academia. I've read I'm also reading Spy X Family, which is very good, by the way. And for and in middle school, I was the first person who got a million words every single time the first week that we come back from summer break in the beginning of each new grade, such as 7th grade and 8th grade, is when I majorly got into reading. And when it was awards day, I got pretty much, well, eh, I got third place in 7th grade and second place in 8th grade. So, yeah, that's the one thing I'm extremely proud of I have done. Sadly, though, that is all the time that we have today. I extremely hope that you enjoyed this first segment of this podcast series. This is my first time actually creating a podcast series. But until next time, have a good day